What's going on, everyone? Coach Damien here, coming to y'all with another awesome YouTube video. This is video number 7, and we're going over the barbell bench press. Just like some of the other exercise videos that we covered in the past, going over the main setup for the exercise, the muscles worked, as well as some common mistakes for yourself or to help out a client that's going through this exercise. So of course, the main muscle that we're gonna be focusing on with the barbell bench press is going to be the pectoralis major. That's that large fan-like muscle that you have kind of on the anterior side of the shoulder, just below your collarbones. But of course, like any exercise, especially big compound movements like the bench press, you're gonna have a lot of accessory or assistance-based muscles. You're gonna have things like your triceps, which help you extend your elbow. You have your anterior deltoid, that front part of the shoulder that helps you with a lot of pushing exercises, as well as things like your pec minor, which helps you stabilize and keep your shoulder blades down. You also have a lot of muscles working isometrically, things like your rhomboids, your traps, your lats for keeping your shoulder stable and the bar moving smoothly as you go through the movement. And of course, you have your lower body involved as well because you are putting force into the ground. So things like your glute max, as well as your quadriceps to kind of help you produce force during the movement. So, you always want to make sure when we're doing bench press that we got what we call 5 points of contact. That's going to be both your feet, so left and right foot, your butt, your shoulders, and the back of your head, all making contact with either the ground or the bench. In terms of hand placement, I like to go just outside shoulder width as a starting point. This is going to depend on your anatomy and your personal preferences, but this is a good place to start, and then you can play with it as you start developing some proficiency in the bench. You also want to make sure you have your eyes underneath the bar. Sometimes what happens if you're too far back on the bench, you might hit the safeties, and if you're too far forward, it's going to be awkward to unrack it. So make sure your eyes are directly under the bar. So now that you got your setup down, now you're going to actually do some reps. You're going to control the bar nice and controlled on the way down, kind of in like a diagonal fashion. Little pause on the chest, and then pushing it back up, straight arms to the starting position. So, those are some of the basic cues for the barbell bench press. We're now going to talk about some key notes or key additional cues that you can implement once you start getting the basics down. First one is retracting your shoulder blades. So, in other episodes like the bent over row and the pull up, you've heard me use this term scapular freedom, where you actually want your shoulder blades to come apart and together. This is that example where we actually want our shoulder blades pulled back. So, when I get set up in my bench press and I'm laying on the bench, I'm actually pulling my shoulder blades back and down. What that does is it locks my shoulder in place, gives me a nice stable position, raises my chest higher, which lowers the range of motion. So for strength athletes, this is going to be hugely beneficial for you and allows you to produce a little bit more force as I'm going through the movement. Another cool tip that you can try out is another way to engage your lats and your traps. Again, to kind of give you that more stable position, help you produce a little bit more force. And that's what we call breaking the bar. So you're retracted, you're pulled back, and once you're ready to go, I usually tell people you want to imagine you can break the bar in half. Imagine like you could snap it like a piece of wood. So I tell people on your pinky side, you're going to turn your fist in as much as you can. Of course, with the bar, it's not actually going to bend, but you're imagining like you could crush something in half. And that again gives you a little bit more stability in the shoulder joint and allows you to produce a little bit more force. Next, let's quickly talk about your foot position. Again, for just basics, you'll probably want to start with just a flat foot, get it to where it's comfortable, and produce some force that way. But as you start getting more familiar with the movement, you're going to have to decide, do you feel more comfortable being flat on your feet or getting on your toes? Again, this is going to depend on how long your legs are, what you feel strongest doing. It really is a personal preference. For me, I like to keep my feet flat and drive my hips into the bar or through the movement as if I'm pushing back into the rack. Some people do like to get on their tiptoes and do the exact same thing. All that matters is that you're engaging your glutes, you're extending your legs by using your quads and pushing the bar back towards the rack. The last one I'm going to talk about, which of course I'll demonstrate some of these on the bar here in a second, is this kind of arc-like movement that you're gonna have with bench press. So a lot of times when you see people benching, you'll kind of notice that the bar just kind of goes straight up and down. So they start in that straight arm position and then they come down. It's almost kind of like by their neck or the upper part of their chest. And again, that's not usually the most beneficial way or the most force producing way that we can do this movement. So when you bench, you're actually starting in a straight arm position. So from my shoulder all the way to my wrist is a straight line, and with the bar as well. And when you come down, you're actually gonna come in this arcing motion where it actually is gonna go down diagonally. And people always ask me, well, how do I know how low to go on my chest? If you look from the side, which I'll show you, the tip of your elbow should be just in front of the bar. That's how you know how low you should go. For some people, that's gonna be the middle of the chest. Some people, that's gonna be the bottom. Some might be a little bit higher up. It's dependent on you and your anatomy. But the reason why you want that tip of the elbow just in front of the bar is because you're then gonna be able to produce force backwards towards the rack and get back to that starting position, rep to rep to rep. So now we'll go over some common mistakes. Again, there is a handful of different ones you can see here because this is a complex movement. I'm gonna go over the three main ones that I see. First is the bar path. So kind of like I mentioned how when you're looking from the side, when you're at the bottom of the bench press, you want the elbow to be a little bit in front of the bar. That's how you know how far down to go on the chest. I usually see people just kind of benching in this straight line where they're almost kind of guillotining themselves, right? And they don't really know like where to put the bar. For that one, I usually just tell my clients or my other coaches like, hey, watch yourself from the side or have your coach watch you from the side and get comfortable finding that position where the elbow is just in front of the bar. You can have them play with it a little bit to find out what feels most comfortable for them and actually give them a visual, either record them or let them use a mirror so they can kind of see how that looks. The other mistake that I see is people either tuck their elbows too much or flare them out too much. Again, a little bit of personal preference here. It's really gonna depend on what people feel most comfortable with, their anatomy, etc. A good rule of thumb to start is somewhere at about a 45-degree angle, right? So if we're considering this 90 with my arms flared out, this is 0 degrees with my elbows tucked in, you wanna be kind of somewhere in the middle to start. And then depending on what your grip is and what your comfort level is and where you find that you're most, the strongest, the most ability to produce force, you'll find yourself naturally gravitating somewhere on either end of the spectrum. Last but not least, another common mistake that I see is people just not using their legs. Again, this is primarily working the chest and the upper body, but you gotta give your lower body some love too because it can help you produce a lot of force. So, making sure that your feet are flat on the ground or you're digging into your toes and you are really like squeezing your glutes and extending your legs as much as possible as long as your hips don't come off the bench, right? Because you don't wanna be hip thrusting during your bench press. You just wanna be able to produce force and push your hips back towards you, okay? Back towards the bar. Because again, the force you're producing isn't straight up and down, it's kind of in that arc-like fashion. And that's all I got for y'all today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thank y'all so much for always tuning in and watching. Again, I'm here at Johnny O's Gymnasium in Boca Raton, beautiful sunny South Florida. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate y'all's support. Of course, as always, please follow me at the_shift_method on Instagram. I post short clips like this over here, as well as other content that I make, and I look forward to making the next one for y'all. Have a great day.